Hello and welcome to the Valley of Death, where everything is spooky, but we keep things light. Now, I couldn't think of a better time to release Resident Evil 3. What do you guys think? But seriously, I'm actually really excited to get my hands on Resident Evil 3. I loved the remake. I do overall like the series and everything, and I just can't wait to go against Nemesis. Honestly, I'm probably going to wind up screaming a lot, but oh well. Yay, fear is fun! But honestly, I was kind of thinking, with the remake of Resident Evil 3 coming out, I thought this would actually be a great opportunity to talk about, well, the movies. Why? Because, well, it ties into the release of Resident Evil 3. I mean, what else am I gonna do? Now, I'm not going to review any of the movies, that will come later, but I thought this would actually be a good time to, well, talk about them. The differences between the games and the movies and everything. So, yeah, I thought, why not talk about the Resident Evil movies?
Weren't you supposed to review the, House on Haunted Hill remake?
Shut up! I want to talk about House on Resident Evil Hill! Resident Evil. The first game was released on the PlayStation 1 by Capcom. It was basically the staple of survival horror, and it really just branched forth into this huge, massive series of video games. Some of them incredible, some of them moving the video game industry forward, and some of them were big piles of zombie crap. Now, when I was younger, I never really got into Resident Evil for quite a few reasons. One of those reasons was honestly because I grew up in a relatively conservative household. The other reason was I was playing Dino Crisis. Because dinosaurs eating people are completely different from zombies eating people. Am I right, moms? But we're not talking about the video games today. Oh no, we're talking about the movies, and boy do I have quite a few words for them. Now, when it comes to Resident Evil, I honestly find it to be the odd duck when it comes to, well, video game adaptions that are turned into movies. Mainly because, although there are many video game adaptions that do stray from the source material, Resident Evil almost has nothing to do with what it's based off of except for Umbrella and zombies. Which is just odd for me because, I mean, how on earth did it get to 6 movies? I mean, most video game adaptions don't even make it past 1 movie. I mean, never mind even 1 movie. They don't even make it past, well, script. Yeah, sure, the movies do make a few references to the video games, but honestly, other than 1 and 2, they really have nothing to do with, well, the games they're based off of. I guess one of the big differences that we have to talk about is, well, the main character. The Resident Evil games have never really had a staple main character. They've had multiple main characters. There's Chris Redfield, Leon Kennedy, Claire Redfield, Jill Valentine. I would say that those were the main 4 of the whole series. Now, who is the main hero of the movies, you might ask? Well, it's Alice, played by Mila Jovovich. Now, one thing I will say, she is the most enjoyable part about all of these movies. I like her charisma, she's honestly a decent actress, and even though she does pull in a lot of cheesy moments within the movie, including with her, well, just acting in general, she does come off as a genuine badass. But I think the main problem I have with Alice as a character in these movies is, well, she's not developed. Who she is altogether as a character is honestly pretty dang shallow. She's just a badass. I mean, she does have some history, if you really want to call it that, throughout the franchise, but compared to the actual video game characters, where we find out a lot about them, their struggles, who they are, what they're dealing with, and the adventure that we go on with these characters throughout the games is honestly, well, incredible at times. With Alice, we don't really have that. We mainly find out that she was basically a spy trying to steal information from Umbrella. And then after that, she basically winds up getting infected with the virus, and then she becomes basically this weird super weapon with telekinetic abilities. Although, yeah, that's cool, and once again, some incredibly awesome action sequences that I just love in this series as a whole. Why do I care? What about her is incredibly memorable compared to the many other great female characters we have in movies? The answer is nothing. I'm sorry for those who are huge fans of the movies and those who are huge fans of Alice. Like I said, I like her as a fun action hero. Other than that, as a character, I think she's completely bad. I mean, especially in comparison to the rich history that Resident Evil does have with characters. Take, for example, Jill Valentine. With a lot of the stuff that she went through in the first game and then Resident Evil Nemesis, she honestly dealt with a lot of pain, suffering, and a lot of betrayal and other elements that honestly I think were, at least to a small degree, better fleshed out compared to whatever Alice was going through. As a matter of fact, I really don't know why we didn't just have Jill Valentine as the main character compared to, well, whoever the hell Alice is. So I'm really sorry for kind of taking a dump on the character of Alice, but I'm sorry, I really just don't think she's a good character at all, especially when it comes to movies. I mean, she's fine and serviceable enough, and I really do enjoy Mila Jovovich's performance of her. I think she does a fine job even when she is relatively cheesy at times. I love her action sequences. I love so much about her that is what she's supposed to be in these movies. But other than that, when it comes to the many other great characters of Resident Evil, honestly, she's rather meh. Honestly, the only thing memorable about her character is that, well, almost in every movie, she wakes up naked and forgets everything somehow. At least in the first 3 movies. So as I mentioned, Alice isn't in any of the video games, so it's very interesting that instead of trying to pick an actual character from, well, the video game series to be a main character, they instead move from that and make up their own characters, and then bring characters from the video game franchise to be more like secondary characters. We do have Jill Valentine, who oddly enough is actually more of a prominent figure throughout the movies. Chris Redfield shows up for 1 movie. Leon Kennedy shows up for 1 movie. Then we got Albert Wesker in Nemesis! Yes, I am aware that there are other characters from the Resident Evil games in these movies as well, but they don't really make that many appearances, other than maybe Claire Redfield. That and beautiful Carlos. And why push back all the other characters? Why push back Chris Redfield? Why push back Leon, who arguably is one of the most famous characters in the entire franchise? And Claire, she is a great character. So we push all of these incredible characters back just to make room, well, for more Alice. And as I mentioned, this is not me trying to crap on Alice. She's a fine character for what she is serviceable to be. But other than that, like, why? So what about the main baddie of Resident Evil? Well, Umbrella is still a huge presence in the movies, which is a little bit odd. The only reason why I personally find it odd is because, well, Umbrella doesn't get past Code Veronica. I mean, they're referenced many times in many of the other video games, and sometimes they do come back, but other than that, they're not really that big. The main bad guy, who's kind of consistent through the series, is Albert Wesker, and oddly enough, he kind of is actually a big part of the movies. But he's not the main bad guy. That's for this guy. The guy from Game of Thrones. Although Albert Wesker is consistently throughout the whole series, he eventually does kind of turn a new leaf when this guy winds up basically going mad with power and tries to basically turn Umbrella into something else. I mean, once again, his motives are also, well, very cartoony. His motives are basically taking over the world and trying to enhance the zombie thing, even when the whole world is dead. It is absolutely 100% dead. He thinks that this is still the best thing to do, and just trying to make the zombies, well, I don't know, I guess functional human beings? One other character who actually does make an appearance is Nemesis. That's right, his game's coming out, and so is he in the movies, and Nemesis, in my opinion, is kind of butchered for a few reasons. One, The guy they picked to play him, I mean, it's not his fault, it's probably just the outfit, but God, he gives one of the most stiffest performances you could possibly have. The fight sequence between Alice and Nemesis is just like, it's like you have an incredible, like, posable action figure, and then you just, like, whack them up against a stick, and that's really it. Now, his mission remains the same, as he's still hunting down the STARS members in this movie. However, why? It makes no sense, because in the movie, Umbrella actually goes into the mansion because there is this big technical difficulty, and they need to figure out what happened to, well, their facility. In the game, STARS investigates the house because obviously there's a lot of strange things happening outside of it, and they're trying to find their other teammates which have gone missing. So in this, it doesn't really make any sense for Umbrella to send Nemesis after STARS, other than to, you know, test him out as a weapon, but that's really it. It's not like he has a purpose here like he does in Resident Evil 3.
Not to mention, Nemesis is now, for some odd reason, Alice's best friend. Dumb.
Now that's really all the movies have in common with the games, because after 2, there aren't really any other things that tie them together. I mean, yeah, some characters show up, but they're honestly very different in comparison to what they are in the games. So it's very odd watching these and then trying to compare them to the games because, well, like I said, they have absolutely nothing in common. So, hey, once again, that's strike 3. Now, pushing all the comparisons to the games aside, what do I necessarily think about them, well, as just a movie franchise on its own? Well, I've already kind of basically said how I feel about it, but the thing is that I do enjoy its cheesiness. I enjoy, honestly, the bad elements to it. I mean, my favorite horror franchise is Friday the 13th, and you guys know, although there is a little bit of quality to it, there's not really any quality to it whatsoever. Why is Friday the 13th my favorite horror franchise? But that's the thing, this series is a fun, turn off your brain kind of mess. With the way that the 5th movie ended, it was leading things on to an epic battle, to some incredibly great action set pieces, and honestly even fan moments that they could have thrown in to, like, appease hardcore Resident Evil fans. Yeah, it might have not lined up with any of the games or anything, but they were at least given characters from the games to shine, and, well, they don't. I really felt really bad for this movie because, well, I enjoy the series. It's awful, it's bad, but I do like many of the moments that, well, are in the whole series. I actually like seeing Nemesis, even though he's done kind of poorly. I do like the first movie. It is enjoyable in its own way and whatnot. The 3rd movie, after it just completely throws out anything to do with any connection to the video games, I think it actually shines a little bit and becomes its own genuine thing. It's not great, but it's still fun, and that's the thing. But honestly, as soon as it got to the 6th movie, things just got incredibly tired, and it really just, it should have died. Either that, or, well, I don't know. I really have no idea how they would have been able to wrap up the series after 5. And for its own sake, I wish it did a better job, but yeah, I think this, like I said, the saddest thing about this movie series is just, it didn't nail the landing. If anything, it was just an incredible shoddy mess. I still like the series as a cheesy, fun, horror action romp. When it comes to the game franchise, it's honestly kind of sad because the stories, although did get a little bit weird and crazy, especially when you start from 5 afterwards, when it starts getting like weird action heavy and stuff like that, probably to try to tie into the feeling and the stuff of the Resident Evil movies. But that's the thing, the story, in a manner of speaking, is quite incredible. Not quality-wise necessarily, but just for how in-depth and insane it is. Evil government corporations, cults, zombies, weird genetic mutations, and crazy monsters. Evil corporations, just to have another evil corporation rise from the ashes of that one. There's a lot of incredible, crazy stuff in this franchise, and it's ran for 8 bloody games, just like number-wise. And then, yeah, there's a ton of spin-offs, 3 remakes. It's really incredible how long this series has gone on for. And then, of course, we have the movies, and the thing with the movies is that, at least this is, in my own honest opinion, it strays way too far from what makes the games at least unique and incredible when it comes to its story. And when the movies do stray off into their own thing, they just take way too much from other zombie movies. How many zombie apocalyptic movies are there? One of the things that I find incredibly unique about the games in general is the fact that there is never a zombie apocalypse. Life goes on as normal. The world doesn't fall apart. There isn't some collapse or anything like that. Everything just runs as normal. Even though some cities blow up and things become apparent that the world is changing and everything, it never ends, unlike in the Resident Evil movies, where literally it just takes everything from all zombie apocalypse movies where, we're out in the desert, where, the whole world has ended, things are never going to be the same and all that kind of stuff. But that's the thing. It's too similar and also incredibly too different from the games, and then too, well, similar to other zombie movies where it honestly, it's not really that unique. If it didn't have the Resident Evil name tied to it, I honestly think a lot of people probably would have forgotten these movies even existed. As its own thing, I think they're fine. I don't think they're great. I don't think they're incredible. I think that they are just fun horror action movies. And yeah, honestly, that's the way it's going to remain. I know Netflix is supposed to be remaking the franchise, and it's supposed to be, at least in some manner of speaking, tied into the games, or at least more similar to the games in some regard. We'll have to just wait and see what happens, but I'm excited. I love Resident Evil, especially thanks to a very dear friend of mine for introducing me and really kind of getting me hooked to the franchise in general. I love the games, the movies are fun as they are, and I can't wait to see what Capcom or heck, whatever movie studio gets its hands on Resident Evil for the future. Just like any normal zombie, this franchise won't die and it will continue on. This has been the Valley of Death, where everything is spooky, but we keep things light. I'll see you guys in the next video. Take care.